What's it?
Yeah.
It's analog. Analog is very analog. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay. It's 1 o'clock, everybody. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. We'll start with the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, Father, we just thank you for this day. We thank you that we can be under your authority and for building our pledge, and just ask that you guide us this day and give us wisdom and just make wise decisions. I always praise you in this thing.
Amen. All right, thank you. Okay, welcome everyone to the new year. This is our first meeting of 2026, and we're going to start things out just a little different. I have 1 o'clock here with Mr. Markham, our county appraiser, and we're going to take a look at this neighborhood revitalization program, the maps and the areas which, yes, will be exceptions. Welcome.
And I was just gonna go over with you if you had any questions about, the exclusion zones or. Anything that we might have or want to include. I think that I would probably suggest that you guys have areas that you think need to be included in the exclusions. I would say maybe go out and just drive through them and take a look, see what you think. I was talking with my staff today and we really are of the assumption that we don't want to get into micromanaging pockets because then you're looking at exclusion zones all over the place. So if we've got just broader areas that we think should not be included, then I think that would be a good thing. But we don't want to get into, street by street yet. I know when I was with Anderson County, it was the city of Garnett, they had 7 different plans. And each one of them one of the plans was actually around the town square to the alleyway on each side. So anything in that was included in that plan. They had one that was down the business corridor. So, we could get into doing it that way. I think it's just a lot more work for everybody involved, and I'm not really sure that would be beneficial.
Okay. All right.
So I guess if you guys have any questions for me, or if you guys know of any areas that you're thinking of that wouldn't be.
So to meet the parameters of the state statute, we have to have some areas of the county that are excluded from that would be non-block.
Right.
So that's what's been done here in the past. We sort of went over this last week and took a look at the map, and we all, I guess, drove around and took a look. Who wants to go first on their ideas? You want to go right to left? Do you want to start?
Okay, so on Sebesta there, if we're trying to using it to attract businesses. This area over here, that's at Portland Airport.
I believe that that's going to be inside the city of Sebesta limits, is what you see here. So it's basically, that's all excluded from our plan. It's included in their plan.
All this with city limit is excluded.
Yes, from our plan.
Okay.
We would have to look at their exceptions, because I know that they have some subdivisions and things within here that are excluded from their plan as well.
So,
The one that the penalty just did this year, anything, that's the way I read it, anything on Brown County side is not eligible for the city stuff. And
Oh, okay. Do not read.
that's why we're.
So is their plan expiring and they're starting a new plan, or is it just
They've already
under current?
currently.
Is marked.
Okay, so it's been in effect for most of last year.
so we'll have that. So anything in Brown County is not eligible for their plan?
I would have to read through it and find out.
So what does that do with the?
I mean, basically, then that would put it on us to, I don't believe, I don't believe that we excluded in any of our exhibits, if I remember correctly. I think we were we were segregating the stuff that was inside city limits of Sabetha to their plan. So we would just have them fill out a different application for that. If it comes down to the fact where they've cut off everything on our side of it, then I think that, you know, our plan would still cover that unless we exclude the areas up there.
So then, Steve, if I was a business or a home in the city of Sabetha,
Mhm.
and we went with their plan, does that mean the county portion of the tax that they paid? We accepted their plan, so we followed the same, with a 90% whatever it was we got to. Was
I
that
think
right?
with theirs was 10 years, 100, wasn't, yeah,
Pretty aggressive.
yeah, they were very aggressive.
So we signed on to their plan
Yeah.
essentially, and so if what we're hearing is correct, then on this side of the county line, then there is no.
Yeah, and no new plan, so anybody that's enrolled in prior to that, is still.
Still out.
Yeah, they would be grandfathered.
But if they built something today,
They would not.
then
If that's
and
correct.
especially in this big area, they
Mhm.
wouldn't qualify for the county, nor would they qualify for the city.
Right.
That's interesting.
Well, I mean, I would assume that our plan would absorb that. to
But
the
if
county line.
we keep them excluded,
If we exclude, I don't think right now, according to our plan, they are specifically excluded. I don't think we have an exhibit that says within the city limits is excluded.
How can we make sure that that's the case?
We have the exhibits.
if we look here, where we find Sabetha City,
We can do that in the plan. We can identify that we'll exclude the area that's needs to the plan at large.
Yeah.
I'm sorry about the size of this.
We're used to.
Pretty large. Only three columns, so much of it goes to. This is. No, 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 what's the?
Okay, and I'm sorry, I misspoke. We do have an exhibit that excludes them. It's exhibit G. So that would be what's excluded from our.
Sorry for that.
They're large.
Well, and if you put the audit schools and all, then. So look at it today, the only participated. In that, I mean, that would be Brown County is more complicated, you can have, and we didn't really, that the city and what we should be looking. Brown County.
Yeah, I was sure I said so about the plan, because to me, it was kind of like they were cutting us out, why even include us in talks or anything like that, so.
This is. This is probably.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think most of the exclusions that there were. Most of what's there is commercial in nature.
Well, we don't, I feel that we want to include in that game because I want to promote that building on this side of the house.
Right.
Of
Right,
kind of her.
Right.
We don't have a big problem inside. Okay, so then.
In the simplest forms, what's the best way to get that back included into our plan going forward?
it would. I would say that you probably would want to reword exhibit G, which is. The corporate limits description for that sign. We would want to go through it, make sure that. If there are any exemptions that we exempt out, which I don't know that would be the case, I'll have to read through this and find out.
In your opinion, what would be a normal exemption?
I mean, I think that probably the industrial parks, I think that was something that the city of Sabetha also excluded from their plan. Was the industrial parks up here, and there was a couple of other small parcels that they excluded as well. But
Because they couldn't consider that a blight or a blighted area?
I don't, I mean, I assume they could, I think they chose to exempt or to accept it.
The legal description on the plan, so they incorporate city limit. City is about the subject to possible feature and innovations and Then you get west and accepts about the airport, industrial park, and it's about the industrial park south, there's these specific stuff around. Probably anything they want to extend on our side, that I go.
And so that, yeah, I kind of lost that. Is it that they're accepting out those properties on our side, or does it just say everything on Brown County side?
Last thing they accept. I lost, or it's about the airport.
Okay, so it sounds to me like they're still including this in.
It's just last thing they accept.
It's lessing out those from their accepted plan. So unless it were to say. You know, something similar to accepting all parcels on Brown County side, something to that nature. I would assume the plan still includes. The areas that were already included in their plan, but it's accepting out the airport, industrial park. There was a north industrial park and south industrial park, I believe were also excluded in the original plan. So I mean, unless they're accepting out everything on our side, I would assume everything in their incorporated city limits would be included.
I would say in the interest of, and so this doesn't take 2 hours on this one subject. If the commissioners are in agreement that we want to include back in what was just taken out,
Right,
then the best thing to do is have our council write up something that would amend that,
right,
that would basically, or specifically.
right. Well, and he may want to take a look at this about the plan to make
Sure.
sure that
Sure.
if it is taking it out, yes, we do want to amend that, put it back in.
You just say. We gotta send it out, right? So before.
I would think so, but you would also have to say, do you want to accept out the areas that they did for the reasons they did? So I think it has to be, but I think both of those areas have to be looked at. Yes, we want to include the rest of it, but are there exceptions there that we want to exclude?
Okay, I think we kind of have a game plan on how we get that put back in, and we'll.
Yeah.
We'll consult with Austin on that, and we'll get some verbiage that makes it clear. Forgoing that portion. Bill, did you have other questions? And when you drove around the city, did you have some recommendations that you were gonna say?
No.
None? So. Under the current last 10 years, there were some areas that commissioners before us. Had deemed that these areas were not blighted and they therefore could not be, they couldn't participate. For instance, I believe Indian Hills, right? You have a
Yes.
newer development.
Yes.
They looked at it, especially 10 years ago, and they said this area is not. You know,
Not
that-
really,
that-
right,
okay. And I have a question about that after we get done with this, but I driving around, I didn't really look at the spot and say, well, we need to exclude this or not include this, because this isn't like there's these master plan developments going on. The only thing I'm aware of is the city of Hiawatha is currently talking about maybe doing some townhomes,
Mhm.
and they're doing it in an area that would fall within it, correct?
yeah, I
Okay.
would think so, yes.
Okay, well, which is what you want. Which is what we want, exactly. So the last, I don't want to be doing something all of a sudden, it hurts their efforts.
Right, right.
So,
And that was the thing that we talked about in my office was, looking at these areas, we don't want to get into the point where we're discouraging.
Right.
Certain areas, right? So, yeah, I mean, I would, at this point, I would think, unless there are some minor tweaks to the boundaries of what we currently have.
Yeah.
I think that what we have is pretty good as far as that goes.
Okay, well. I agree with that statement. Like I said, I drove around and nothing. I didn't want to,
Nothing jumped out.
I don't think we should be doing something just for the act of we've got to change it a little bit. Sometimes you don't need to change the current plan. So I didn't have any areas that I was going to bring up. I think the Sabetha area is the most. Important thing that we kind of figure out how to.
I agree.
I'm still waiting on, if Austin comes back, he may be able to decipher what you meant there. I still didn't quite understand. If the lawyer reads that. Does it accept it or does it not? And
Right.
You guys understood it, it just,
See, I was under the assumption and the impression from what I read that it was basically just a rollover of their current plan, and that it would still be included except for those areas. I mean, if he interprets it differently, then I would think that then we would need to move on.
Oh, that's true. And I love the same thing. I drove around the city of Hiawatha. I did go south by the golf course, but the same thing, the idea. We don't need to just zone out and pick on certain sections. I couldn't really find any block of property in that.
I think what it does is it discourages development,
Yes.
right? So,
So, my question about Portage, is that why they picked the places they picked, because they didn't want to development? Those places?
I can't answer for them. I wouldn't think that they would pick it because they didn't want it. I figured that in order to be under the guidelines of the plan, they had to come up with some areas and say these are not considered blighted areas.
And a lot of those areas, I think, are industrial in nature, you know, which may be one of the reasons they picked it.
One of the ways to do that. Let me see.
Yeah, that would be the only excluded area there, and that's commercial in nature.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm not sure why they picked on that one little piece, but
Okay, so if we can clear up the Sabetta issue, then it's the general consensus here, we're not looking at either way. I would agree with that. What do you think?
and the other thing could be too, is if you guys look at these areas that are currently excluded and you feel that they need to be included, we could talk about re-including them into the plan.
I don't necessarily see the reason for that.
For striking in,
Yeah.
definitely. All right. Just this is. On the way, actually.
I found that interesting that basically it's just the water.
Yeah, none of them.
And, I'm like, who's going to be improving the water?
Some of this would be king, but it's all city on top. Yeah, that's interesting. Okay.
So, Lauren, what else?
Right.
That would be the airport there, and that's over, I believe the gun range is in there. And there was one other property, I think it was west of town, that was also included.
Okay.
That one I was not sure why it was. Sure. That might be about it.
This should be.
There was one, it was on exhibit, I think it was on exhibit E, and it was all the way at the bottom. Starts out in north half of the southeast quarter and north half of the southwest quarter. It's basically, it's a property that's west of town, like, I'm not sure on the sections. And I'm not real sure, number one, why it was ever included.
Should be some.
Be down
Oh,
here.
yeah, sure.
It's like over in here. It's, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and I was not sure why that was included, but it was.
Does this plan go back 30 years or how long does that plan go back?
I go back and look at the old plans and see how many years are in it.
Yeah, you,
Well, I think at one time, we always had a plan for a prison out there.
city of Fort.
Okay, so that may be what it was then.
That's the one he's talking about.
Yeah. I think Bill was saying that, yeah, originally there were plans to put a prison out there.
A lot of people like police out.
Okay.
So that may be
So
why it was included.
The city of Horton, I'm assuming, has a master plan somewhere. And
You-
whether or not this went in or didn't go in, then this area would still be probably set aside for some major development like that.
Yeah,
Courage with all.
they were gonna take that out of the plan because they didn't want that being developed. If they were going to the prison.
I could be wrong, but at one time there was something out in that area.
I mean, that makes sense, especially if the plan goes back that far.
You are usually come up. So, but you know, so, okay, so something like that for a prison that would be in the works as a possibility, maybe some years ago, do that. Or do you-
I mean, I think today, I think those are all privately owned parcels.
The only way to answer that is to talk to the city of Horton about this
Right,
and see if they have some background on why that was set aside and what their future plans are. Again, I'm
right.
assuming that there was a master plan that was set up and they said this is an area that we designated. Whether that still is in effect in 2026, I can't answer that.
But another question is why did they even consider it,
I'm sorry,
why did they even consider it part of the city?
The city of Horton corporate limits. Is there a difference? Yeah, I'm not sure either. Okay. So we need to ask the city of Horton. That's the question. I would, okay.
Maybe that might be different.
Well, if you wanted to build a house there, you know, on that farm, maybe we have to-
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, and so we ought to ask, shoot, the city attorney's just across the hallway. Kevin Hill's the whole city attorney. You could easily do that. Okay,
so do we have a description of this or can we get some way to describe this a little bit better? Because when we go over there, we don't want to obviously have to take this.
If you have the exhibits, it's in exhibit E, it's the last paragraph.
Exhibit E in the last paragraph describes this piece of.
I believe that is the case, yes.
okay. All right, so that's the second question. We have two questions. First is the city of Smyrna, second is that. And then otherwise, the plan and the exceptions look fine. Correct. All right. Okay. All right, Bill, you've got a memory like a steel trap.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because I would have never known, anything about that. So that makes sense. That they probably have that on the side or something. Yeah,
Yeah, I think I remember.
But it was done in promotion.
Yeah.
I would have.
Okay,
All right,
well, thank you.
you're very, very.
You have any questions for us or anything while you're down here?
I really don't at this point.
Well,
I have a question. So, I believe that Indian Hills in the city of Hiawatha is not part of the revitalization plan, based off the information we have.
Yes,
Okay, so there was an applicant that applied for the neighborhood revitalization plan that was work inside Indian Hills.
okay,
Okay,
thank you.
and they were in here, they voiced their opinion at the last meeting. What in the future, if somebody comes in and is going to apply, what stopgap do we have that you guys immediately say, I'm sorry, that's not within the revitalization plan? So they don't fill out the application, they don't spend money on it,
Right,
and they don't wait to be told if they're accepted or not accepted. What are we gonna do to make sure that doesn't happen in the future?
I believe that usually, Nettie is the one taking those applications. I can speak with her about making sure that we check, make sure.
Because going forward, I believe the commission, I believe you guys were in agreement. When somebody applies for the NRP,
Mhm.
we want a form letter that goes and says that we have accepted your letter and we'll be reviewing it. We'll get back to you. And then I believe that out of your office, we need a letter that accepts or denies that program.
I have those.
Okay, and in the future, we would expect that all applicants, will get an acceptance or a denial letter from the county.
Yes,
And that also we will immediately look at their plan and let them know, hey, that's not within, because it wastes
Right.
everybody's time, your time,
oh, sure,
it wastes their time, but we have a resident in Brown County that paid money to apply for it, and they should have never done that because it wasn't part of it. So we're wasting their time and we're also costing them money. So I
right,
just want to make sure that we've developed something that is in place going forward.
yeah, and we can definitely make sure that the people accepting the applications are checking the maps to make sure that they are. And
Okay.
I think what will make it, I think 100% easier is if we have, if we develop a layer for our GIS system
Mhm.
of mapping. that has that layer in it, it will be a lot easier for her or whoever to go to that and look. And
Well, even before that layer, Steve, if you just have if you have on your wall, when
Yeah.
people walk in, a small version of that map. If somebody walks in to apply, one of the standard questions should be, before you do that, do you fall within any of the pink areas?
Right.
And that would stop it right there.
Yeah, I think that the drawback to that would be is if you get if you get a map that's only an 11 by 7, or, 11 by 10, whatever. It's probably not going to be 100% evident to them whether or not, because it wouldn't have their parcels on it.
Okay.
We would have to have a larger map, in other words.
The schematics, I don't care how you do it, I just want it done. So we don't waste anybody's time.
I
so-
think,
so
like I said,
come up
I
with
think the,
Something that works for you,
yeah.
and
I think
then,
the best thing that we can do is get that layer developed for our GIS. That would be a very quick check, because we can bring up that with the boundaries on it, bring the parcel up, and you can see immediately whether or not it's within that range. And I know that Nikki's been working with Sam to get that implemented. And what's that, anything we could do to help them with that, I'm more than happy to help.
Okay.
Where I can.
sounds good.
So I think
So-
that's gonna be I think that would be the best way to do it, the most efficient way.
Okay, so you understand that we want a letter rejecting
Letters have been,
or accepting, okay, perfect.
yeah, and I've talked with Nettie about making sure that anytime one comes in, regardless of what we do with it, that letter goes out, whether they're accepted, denied, whatever.
So should the application process change somehow in that? If I wanna apply, but my neighborhood's not eligible, then I should know before I proceed to the next step?
That's why I'm asking him to come up with a way that they're told. Basically,
We're saying the same thing.
I don't want to be accepting money from somebody
That's not,
and then finding out that they're not in that.
yeah, right.
And I mean, this isn't Los Angeles, it's shouldn't take that much to figure out if
No.
it's in or not.
I think, yeah, like I said, right now, the only thing we have is the legal restrictions to go off of.
Okay.
And I don't believe that we have the exclusions map in our office as far as the overall. But like I said, I think that we're working on a solution that will solve that problem.
Okay. So our application, when this thing is new, will our application look basically the same as the one we had before? Is that what we're thinking?
I
Ish.
think,
Okay, so I just wondered because you're gonna work on, if somebody is not eligible due to where their property is located, we need like a hard stop in there. Do we need something in there that says that if you pay your money and find out that your place isn't in the right part on the map, that you should give
I
it
just
back?
think, if it was me, I wouldn't accept any money for it until we've decided if it's falls within or with outside. And then that would,
Well,
that's when we would,
does that create any problems for the people that are implementing?
for us, not really. I mean, I think, like I said, once we have that layer, it will be an immediate check that we can do before we even accept the application at all.
I like it.
I think we're good at that.
All right, and I think that's it. All right,
All right,
thank you.
thank you.
very, very welcome, guys. Appreciate it. Can you do
You
anything
look
else?
very, you look distinguished with that cane, by the way. You just need a hat to go with it.
Oh, my God, yeah, that's all I need. One more thing to get in my way. Thank you, Joe.
Oh. Okay, so. It's 1:29. We are absolutely right on schedule. So we glossed right over the county personnel and public comment. Is there any comment from anybody at this time? And I don't see any, so I'll say the same thing again. If you have something you want to say and we're still in session, come down here and we will try our best to make time for you. So item number 1 on the agenda is the minutes from last week's meeting.
I don't pardon me, check out my, good morning, because I did it yesterday. There was one correction on the treasurer. I just, I don't know twice.
Sure.
You have anything?
Yeah, so on the bids, since we only had one bid, let's say just accepted the bid. And then it was something, to say were.
Oh, you just, since we had a singular bid, it would say, hey bid, hey bid was open or bid, whatever.
Yeah,
I get it.
not changing the meaning of it. Except it just makes it clear there's only one bid.
Anything else?
Kind of on that same topic about the hay bids. Do we make any provision if that, any of that land comes out is not acceptable, or is it? Does the guy that didn't know that couldn't happen?
I'm sorry, Bill, I didn't understand the question.
So, of the, I don't know, if you heard anything about the construction company wanting to put their thing out there?
So they were submitting a bid. And that would only happen if they were low bid, and I have not heard back from them if they were low bid. Which makes me believe that they were not.
Oh, on the entire project.
Correct.
Yeah.
Oh,
They were doing their due diligence prior to bid to make sure that they could obtain areas to set it.
okay, so that, I didn't want the guy to think he's had more hay ground than he was.
Yep.
And yeah, if he did, we should compensate something for that, but, all right. That's my only question. That's the only correction.
All right. Well, seeing any other additions, corrections, or clarifications in the minutes? If not, is there an motion to approve?
I would make a motion to approve the minutes, December 31st, 2025.
Okay, is there a second?
Checking it.
Any more discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, motion carried. Nikki, thanks for doing those on Sunday.
I saw that.
It was a busy week. Okay, moving on down is the K-Camp risk assessment. As I read this was an October walkthrough of county properties where K-Camp, I don't know what, I guess an adjuster or what you would call them, but walked around looking for places that might need a little attention. A lot of them were fire extinguishers, hot electrical panels, and some electrical outlet.
So when I read through this, the takeaway from this is they were fairly pleased with our facilities. They're pretty cool. They came up with some minor things. If you scroll through, most of the stuff is very minor and it's easy to fix. There are a few things in there that I'm not so sure about if we're going to try to fix or how we go about it. For instance, the steps walking upstairs. Are the steps a problem? Has anybody ever had a problem with the steps? Because the last thing we want to do in a historical building is go in there and start redoing marble and putting. So they're going to want a response from us on each one of these items. Like I said, most of them are very simple. That one stuck out to me. The other one is the electrical to thermal imaging. So I understand, they can come in and they can say, boy, you could do this and you could make this adjustment. All that stuff cost us money. And sometimes some of the things that risk assessment brings up, it's quite costly to the county. So for instance, with my background, we used to do this thermal imaging for people. It's not cheap. And so it was done usually when electrical appurtenances in buildings were of certain manufacturers, because certain manufacturers had been deemed to cause problems. So before we do that, I would like to look at the electrical panels that are within the county before we spend thousands of dollars having thermal imaging done on them. That would be my comment on that.
All right.
Okay. And then the other thing was lightning protection. Again, lightning protection is not cheap. So I would say before we just say we're going to go do lightning protection, we get our insurance company in here and talk to them a little bit about it. It obviously wasn't a problem with them when they underwrote the policy. So again, I'd kind of like to get some sort of an agreement in place before, if we spend that kind of money to put lightning protection on all the buildings, are we going to be getting a benefit back to us? Or are we going to be getting a lowered a lower premium before we go down that avenue. These are just questions I have. I don't know how else to address this other than we fixed the low hanging fruit on here, get the stuff done that they've mentioned, which a lot of it is very simple, but a couple of them are larger items that would cost the county quite a bit of money.
Sure. All right.
Does that make sense?
Makes sense to me. So who takes the lead on this since they're in multiple buildings? Do we just take it to department heads?
Yeah, I would say, for instance, anything within this courthouse that, we could talk to the custodians and,
Okay.
I mean, again, a lot of it's very simple stuff.
Appreciate it.
It's moving stuff away from some electrical panels. It's putting some placards up for some first aid kit, or I'm sorry, for fire extinguishers. The,
Would that be as simple as just that sticky sandpaper, is what I call it, the strips?
Maybe. but we would want to talk to the insurance company or the risk assessment company and say, what do you guys envision? Because the last thing we want to do is go do something and then have them come back and say, no, that doesn't meet the requirements.
So you're talking about the steps.
Yeah.
So,
And we're talking about the steps inside the courthouse.
right, so. In the back steps going downstairs, it says, there's a sign that says, please use the elevator or something, right? So with a sign that says. Please use the elevator out there,
Again,
take care of it,
I think that this Patrick Smith
it's looking for problems.
is the person that says if we have any questions, we have some questions. So I think we need to talk to Patrick Smith about a couple of these items. The items that would, like I said, the items that would cost the county a lot of money to do.
I agree with you, I don't see that going through and covering up the steps is a good idea. I mean,
Well,
Do you want to schedule a meeting or a phone call with that man?
I think we should.
Through
absolutely.
and having come up, is there anything else that we'd like to talk to them about? Did we meet Patrick Smith? That name sounds familiar. Yes. Okay. Would it be all right then, Nikki, to schedule a meeting with them?
Yeah.
All right. Wonderful. Now, I thought on the pictures, so the thermal imaging
Mhm.
is that just giving you the
So-
infrared reading?
So again, okay, electrical is one of those things that nobody understands, of course, right? So they say that they want you to thermal image your electrical panels. The reason you would do that is it would tell you if you have a hot spot in your electric. In other words, there's something in there that's not right, a connection,
Huh?
and it's a potential problem that could cause a fire. That sounds scary, but it's not as scary as.
Yeah, I'm not asking.
Right. And so again, in my experience, there were panel manufacturers that started, especially back in the sixties, that were really popular and a lot of companies were using. And over time, it was determined that they had potential problems, but there was never any recalls, right? It wasn't a big enough problem that there were recalls. So insurance companies now are becoming more and more risk adverse. So it's easy for them to say, hey, all your panels need to be thermal imaged. Do they? And
And the before and after on something like that, you could get a new panel that still reads.
but then the fire departments have those ability to do that or not, is that a separate?
I doubt that our local fire department has a thermal imager. I don't know, we could ask.
Well, they got some way to check the temperature in places, I think.
Like they do.
But then
Is-
again,
is it
also,
different?
this gets into engineering and all that. It's like, okay, so what's acceptable within your thermal image range? It's kind of a rabbit hole. Before we do this, let's talk to them a little bit and maybe they're happy enough with us inspecting the panels and seeing if they're, there's a lot of panels that have been installed, if you look here, that have been installed within the last 10, 15 years. So again, before we just go out and hire an electrical contractor to do this and pay them thousands and thousands of dollars to do it, let's see what we
Okay.
actually need to do.
So he's on the schedule to meet up with us and we'll walk through that thing really line by line. Some of the things will be pretty simple. We need to get some stickers, it looks like, for the fire extinguisher.
Mhm.
And somebody might already have. So. Okay, all right. Is that enough on that? Can we move on?
I think we can move on.
I would ask though, and this will be for him. In my life, I've never seen an oxy-acetylene torch kit that is separate.
I understand what you're saying,
So,
but if you go into big buildings where they store extra tanks, they want you to store them apart. I don't consider that being stored. That's a tool
yeah, that's.
that is hooked up to use. So there's a little difference there.
We have this.
I had that question too.
Yeah, okay,
What's the matter with that?
okay. All right, moving on. The risk management services. And we talked about this last year, early in the year, and we did a lot of these. Any comments on this?
So would this be the same person? Could we include? I mean, this Patrick Smith, it seems like we could ask questions about this particular risk management section and the risk assessment that they performed all in the same meeting. Because when I read through this, there are, it looks like we could get up to $2,000 back probably on our policy if we perform certain things, correct?
And they do.
And they do.
Yep. I mean, they do. The sheriff uses that for usually for updates to us, like a real guard.
Right.
Okay. So. I'm fairly certain there's a checklist around here too with all these. Yep. She's nodding her head in agreement. Okay, so that's on the same thing. We'll ask Mr. Smith when we get on his meeting schedule. Okay, now we see drafts of resolutions for 2026. And it's, I guess we can do this today. But it's effective the 12th, is that right? Or do we need to wait?
You guys want to look at it?
Okay, then I'm sorry.
So these resolutions will actually happen on the 12th, like it states, correct?
All right, well, my mistake. Thank you for correcting. Okay, the first one is for Chairman of the Board of County Commissioners. It reads that Lucas Heinen will be chairman for 2026. And I just want to look to my left and to my right, because the chairman is a very enjoyable position that comes with lots of prestige, and I just make sure nobody else wants to do it. I'm happy to do it, I will, but if somebody else wants to.
I think if it's not broke, we don't need to fix it, right? Bill, how do you feel? I know you were aching to do the chairman position, but
People ask, kind of suggested that I do that, but I was not looking forward to it, to tell you the truth.
well,
So I'm,
I can change my resolution that day. It's.
I'm happy to have you fulfill those duties.
Well, I want to state for everyone to hear that being the chairman, so there are a few things, some calls that come to the chairman.
right,
But my main goal is that we run this meeting as a team, as a unit. And I don't, the chairman, I mean, if I had a gavel, I guess maybe I could hammer it down, but I don't. I don't want to quash any discussion. I don't want to direct people to places they don't want to go. So it's a figurehead position. I really consider us all equal. So that's what I'm trying to say. Make sense?
Yeah, we appreciate it. You're doing a good job, so let's not change it.
I would add this though, Richard, this is for you. So part of the chairman position, I've never been called on this yet, but if we have inclement weather, like a bad ice storm, the chairman makes the decision whether the courthouse is open or closed. So I don't live here. I mean, is that something, would you take that role on? And I'm dumping that on your lap. I shouldn't talk to you for the meeting, but since you live here in town, you would know better the conditions in there. Does that make sense?
Sure, I would just, what's the avenue that,
Is that all right?
okay, and I'm assuming that decision is supposed to be made by a certain time prior to the opening of the courthouse. Okay,
It's sort of tradition. Yes.
okay. So I would be working with Nikki on that.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that.
Okay, thank you for doing that. Okay, we'll move on to the next one. That is to designate the checking investments and depository banks for 2026.
so I think I brought up this in the past. Why, we have a lot of money sitting around invested, we should be looking for the highest interest rate. So I think we ought to be looking at some of the Horton banks, right? But they're not on the list, but well, there's 2 or 3 banks down, a couple of other banks, Union State Bank and it's only one.
We can ask her. We've talked about this before, but yeah,
Right.
if she comes down,
I mean-
let's talk to her.
So it looks like there's 4 that we've designated.
But I mean, every bank in the county should be available if they have the best interest rates to do, maybe not the checking part, but the investment part.
Certain banks have the advantage of location as far as doing a business. You're just walking across the street.
And I can see that, but you have $1 million invested at 0.25% interest, makes a couple $1,000 difference in the.
Makes a difference. Okay, well, we'll ask her when she comes in. Okay, now we have the legal newspaper designation.
Yeah, so I was gonna ask about that. So the Horton Headlight has been the paper for most of the years, and I believe Hiawatha Daily, not Daily World, but Hiawatha World was for a short time. So we are accepting bids each year? Is that,
That's
okay,
about 11.
okay. And do you get response from both of them?
I have so far.
Okay,
So they'll be in there by next week.
Yeah, these are
Just,
well, you have to look at what the format is
Right.
and the highlight file. Really looking for them.
okay. I see. Okay, very good.
okay, then we go on to the personnel policy, salary and wage structure for 2026. Okay, so I wondered, should the employee policy book, is that subject to amendment? You know, does this resolution, does that still give us the ability to make a change midstream if we have to?
Yeah, we have.
Okay, okay, good, just. All right. Any questions?
No,
Okay, and now we got this, generally accepted accounting principles waiver resolution.
I'm assuming that's how it's always been since we're not a county that's has taken out a bunch of loans.
Always found that.
An annual thing.
Sure, sure.
Yeah, it's just a procedural thing. Okay. Now we've got through that. Item number 5, the fixed assets.
So Nikki, does this fall under your department to update the fixed assets? Okay, because obviously this goes back many, many years and those fixed assets are still on there. So you had there was a question mark on the new building, I'm assuming. Out at the landfill. Is that what your question was?
They would admit if she's not helping you with everybody, all the department that's around with what. So. Yeah, probably. I guess we'll put a landfill addition and then.
Since that wasn't a new building, it was an addition to the building. Is it already?
The building and the landfill. They are already.
Okay,
Oh,
I was running through these. And that was really my only question on that. And then who's updating them? And you're relying on the division heads to update you. Okay.
Good.
And obviously it's only fixed assets. We're not,
Over $500.
okay, good.
Bill, got something?
For the transfer station buildings and land were on there.
For
The transfer station buildings and lands. And
That's what we were just talking
well,
about.
I know, but
So it's the new building, or it's the remodel and the addition onto an existing building.
right, so. Yeah, whatever, how we do
So we're talking about just adding it to
Adding.
the fixed asset because
it. So as a separate,
yeah,
I think,
This is a document to kind of help us keep track of where we are. Do we
Right.
need to account for the 6 acres of land that we sold at the landfill property? Should that come off the
probably.
Was it 6 acres in total?
basically?
Okay.
Is it listed as a whole amount? I'll check, Bill, if anybody will get a copy of the complete fixed assets when it's updated in Bedrock, please.
Okay.
Make sure that, that land shows up on the landfill. Or on that.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just, I struggle with this, like, the commission room carpeting, that says August 1st to 2024. Didn't you do that in 25? Is that a different distinction without a difference?
Was it
Doesn't
paid
matter.
for out of the 24 budget though?
It probably doesn't matter. I just saw it and. Okay, so we got the things that are important are on there. We're gonna make an adjustment for the landfill building, the landfill, some of the land we sold that. And then we'll get a copy of that when it's all completed. Check it. Okay. Do we need to do anything on that as far as motions or?
Well,
Sorry.
Here we do it that time.
Bill, you're starting to get a reputation.
I know, right?
Bill,
Sorry, and already that's it.
Okay, so item number 6 is the year end.
So I had a couple questions on this. Nobody else does right now, but obviously this is my first year with the commission, so I'm looking at history, historical data, that kind of stuff. So on a whole, when you guys look at cash on hand at the end of the year, has there been discussion in the past where you want to be? Because obviously, if there is no cash on hand, we were right into the beginning of the year with no cash to pay anything. So in the past, were you guys looking at a percentage of the overall budget to try to remain on hand, you know? Or has it just been working out?
I don't get that person before I even usually do that.
Okay, the first distribution usually comes in when? Okay, so by the middle of the month usually, okay. So for instance, the very first line there is commissioner. And, you know, there's a percentage left over at the end of our budget there. Does that fall within kind of where we normally land? Does anybody know? Or I mean, do we usually see that budget is like down to just a few percent, or is 18% kind of normal? These are all questions that I'm just trying to go like historically, where did we land?
I think there's usually some left over in the commissioner's budget.
Right, which there is.
And, I mean, sometimes in the past, started out with 750,000. We started with less this year, but still had some left over
You mean we had a bigger budget
in the past.
in the past? Okay. All right, so I've been on the same vein. So just start with the commissioner. We got $118,000 left over at the end of the year. That's with all our bills paid. We paid that, the big insurance contribution out of there. And so we had that left. So that money now rolls over into, what happens to that money?
I'm thinking of general fund.
Okay, so that money will go into the gym. And so is that accounted for then here at the bottom of that page where it says general? So that 118,000 is already in.
Budget balance, so cash wise, it's like 60.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, thank you.
Gentlemen, I'm in the midst of an emergency.
I wondered, do you need,
No, I'll come back in a few minutes. I'm gonna make sure my computer's out so I don't know nothing.
okay,
Okay, I'm not questioning it like there's a problem here. I don't look at this and go, oh boy, we have problems. I'm just trying to get kind of my mind wrapped around where we have been in the past and where we are right now. So in other words, if you were just coming in and this was a company you're running, do you look at this and go, okay, we are in a hole. This is a position we haven't been in before. It doesn't appear that way to me when I look at this. This cash and budget summary looks like it's a fairly decent. We're not ending up with every line item with considerable amount of money left in, which means that those budgets weren't really that tight to begin with, if you understand what I'm going with. It looks pretty clean. Do you agree with that? Are there any things in here that you look at that bother you?
So my question is, we talked a lot about cash reserves. So like when we have this much left over, that's kind of does that go in the reserve or is that?
The $6,000.
Well.
It's not a lot of money.
But where you see the $6,000? Oh, on the cash side?
Yeah.
So. How come, I mean, I can't quite understand all that stuff, I guess, because you got 6,000 here, but you got 285,000 over in others.
With the budget, you have to do separate things. So you can have enough in the budget, if you don't want the cash, you can spend it.
Okay, so then, but.
Bill, you're not alone. I don't fully understand that, this sheet here. So I know when we made a lot of these decisions earlier in years, because we, through our budgeting process, we determined after he ran all the numbers, Scott Boyd and McKee, and everyone ran the numbers, we were gonna have a very small amount of cash at the end of the year.
Correct.
Which is exactly what happened. And actually, that's a lot, it's $20,000 lower than I think he estimated. Is that true? Don't remember, the numbers run together, but I thought we were gonna be around 28 or 29,000 was all we had left in the general, so. We ran things really tight, I thought. And we still ended up. I mean,
But of course, this is after the general, like the transfer of the capital improvement too. And
Oh.
moving around with money.
Yeah, the money's, not all that money is necessarily gone.
okay.
So all
All right.
all that they put it in a,
Be after the general. We got to get out of it.
Right.
Okay. All right, so. I guess I just feel the need to clarify, when I look at stuff like this and you talk about cash versus budget, I do understand that, but when you say the money might still be there. I will tell you that's where did it get?
Capital improvement.
Capital improvement.
So it's a CIP line item, capital improvement.
It's a separate fund, so it doesn't go on here because it's not a budgeted fund.
Okay.
So the reduction in one is an increase in another. That's fine, that's good, and that's why we hired people to work on the budget. That's why that's your job. And you do very well at it. And you can see all this stuff. I mean, did you see any?
No, I mean, I wasn't around when the budget was done and I'm not making an excuse. I'm just trying to, again, I look at historical, you know, where were we the last couple of years before we got here? Are we trending? Are we trending in a direction that shows that at the end of each year, we've got less and less? Because that's an alarming trend. And that's why you guys were taking the measurements that you did before. It's like to reverse that, which was what we needed to do. Again, I don't look at any of this and go, well, you shouldn't have 31% in this budget. That's not what I'm trying to do here. I'm just trying to understand where we've been in the past. And from my understanding, in the past, we had more cash on hand. If you go back 4 years ago, the county had more cash on hand. If you go back 3 years ago, there was less. 2 years ago, there was less than this year. So the trend is we're ending with less cash on hand.
Right, with the adjustments we made to the road and bridge and some other things.
Correct.
Plus with the increase in the taxes levy, we should have been a net positive to cash money.
Right. And that's important that information gets disseminated, gets out to everybody. So when they see us making decisions like not doing gap insurance, there's a reason for that. We're not just going through there and saying, well, we don't think anybody deserves it. That's not the case at all. We're looking at trends here. And right now the trend is lower population, higher cost. It's going to affect this balance sheet, this cash on hand at the end of the year, more and more as the next couple of years go by.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so is there any other discussion on this cash and budget summary? No? Anything else we need to know? Okay. All right.
So this budget summary that you did, Nikki, could this be one of our topics in our workshop as we have questions and talk about how we ended up and what we're doing? Would you guys want to discuss it further in a workshop and get into it a little bit more?
Well, part of it, for every closing month, what kind of information that we need and then just that.
Because she's doing it every month, we could take the next one and do a workshop on where we are on it. Because I feel like as with any spreadsheet, people have a tendency to look at a spreadsheet and go, yes, this makes sense, but there's always something on there that doesn't make sense. And when you don't want to ask those questions, myself included, people kind of have a tendency to go, no, I think I understand that. All I'm saying is, one of the workshops is to go through this spreadsheet and understand the line items a little bit better. Would you guys want to do that?
Would it be helpful to see December of 2024 for comparison purposes?
Sure.
Is that what you're getting? You're
I,
just trying to.
whatever clarifies these columns to everybody, I think is a good thing to do.
Okay. I mean, it's fine. It's fine with me if Mark has time.
It's no different. Everybody loves to throw acronyms around and people are afraid to go, what does that acronym stand for? Instead of just saying, you know,
I was a little confused with the GAAP and the GAP and.
general accounting
Yeah.
practices.
Or
Yes.
something was odd because you'd think you would want generally accepted. Okay. All right, then moving on, we'll schedule that for the work session in 2-3 weeks. Okay. All right, Mr. Parker,
Yes.
are you,
Yes, and I apologize for this emergency. It's
no apologies, you don't have to apologize here, we're pretty easy to get along. We knew you were busy doing something else, so we just worked through it, but now you're ready, and it's nothing, I mean, is it, are you
It's,
comfortable still being here? You don't have
yes,
to leave.
I'll be okay. I'm gonna have to leave in a few minutes, but
Alright,
I want to get
okay.
a report on where we're at. I'll be back next week. Okay.
Alright.
So I've sent over the draft MOU form to Sheriff Merchant. I spoke with Sheriff Merchant. He has sent it on to the tribe. Okay, and the tribe is now reviewing it, council looking at it, so they're gonna get back to us with what their thoughts are on. We have some key things that we care about that I've spoken about with the sheriff. Specifically the ownership of equipment after we're done with the grant compliance period. So we're working through that. That's part one. Part two is I had a meeting with the part of the group on the trial bridge. And I'm working to, I think over the next few weeks, I'm gonna work with Commissioner Richard to map out I take some photos and do some measurements so that I can communicate that with them. I'm gonna meet with that group directly in 3.5-4 weeks. So before that, I think, and that's gonna be something I talk about with Commissioner Richard after the meeting. Third thing, I finished the permanent easement. I'm still working on the construction easement, for the, bridge right of way that we talked about during our last meeting at the end of the year. So I sent that over. And then at the same time, we're although we're waiting to hear back from David with Amberwell on exactly how they're gonna approach. I've been starting to do a little bit of the financial working in the background, looking at numbers and kind of where we're at based off of our numbers, what it will look like to win. Once I learn more from them about what they think the costs will be in this quarter, I'll be able to put that into a little bit more of a financial framework that we can look at and analyze and say, if our goal is at year 5 or year 6 to no longer have a mandatory increase based off of covering employee healthcare costs, does this get us there and how? And so I'm starting to frame up a little bit of that into, I don't want to say it's in a spreadsheet form yet because I'm not quite there, but I mapped it out earlier. Actually, today I started to map out where I think some of that employee spend cost is. Other than that, I think we're fairly well caught up on some of the other items, but there's some odds and ends that are still coming through. I don't think we have anything outstanding right now, Commissioner Richard, do we? I'm not trying to put you on the spot. There may be something that comes up.
The resolution,
Oh, yes, that's the last thing. And that's on my list for this next week. I got through my list for this week and my list for this next week is
Is that for the planning commission?
the planning commission resolution. And then also mapping out a little bit, I'm gonna do a little bit more work on this bridge this week, trying to flush out what that looks like. And then maybe for next week, I might do a little bit of analysis to show what year 5 would look like. Pretty basic spreadsheet. I'm not gonna try to bury us with numbers, but some basic spreadsheet, like what does it look like in year 5 if we had average years? Okay, because we basically had a situation where we had $650,000. That was our 650, if I remember right, somewhere in that range. That was our coverage responsibility before secondary insurance kicked in. Okay,
Mhm.
but if you're in the $400,000 range on a claim year, if you get there over 5 years. Okay, you're at $1 million in your back end fund. One. Now, if you set somewhere at the, I was looking at what it would look like with about $1.3 million. That's set in the fund. This is the, and I'm not trying to cut short next week, but $1.3 million sitting in the fund, even at 4% interest, because that's, we have to put it in governmental bonds. That's $55,000 a year. So if you look at it, if you were fully insured, the annual increase in premiums about 150,000. Okay, but we're not fully insured. We just have linebacker insurance. So our goal is by year 5, how do we get the interest off of that account to cover the linebacker insurance premium? That's in my mind. I know I'm sounding a little bit like a finance guy, but if we can,
You have to have consecutive years with.
at about 400,000. So there's going to be some years that we're at 600. That's why I'm saying it could take 5 years. Some years we're going to be at 300,000. Some years we could be at 650,000. But we have to figure out, and that's why the conversation with Emerald is so important. We have to figure out if we're at 650, how do we win the 400 3 or 4 times? And then we get to the interest, then we get to a point where we have enough in the reserve pool fund, right? The other thing that we may do is that we have some budget. Every year we have some budget carryover, not every year, we have some budget carryover. If we can figure out what our magic number is, instead of putting money like we normally do into capital improvement, we may put some in here to advance our insurance, so that at the end of the day, if we can get to our magic number, we've covered our annual employee benefits insurance, so that becomes a zero sum. That's just one thing I've been trying to map out.
So right now, Nikki, when there's money left over, it's going back into like a CIP fund. We're talking. Okay, so are we governed by where that has to go?
If it comes out of a certain fund, then it's go back into it.
Yes.
It used that way.
Okay.
But, and even if it's down, it's back up now,
Okay,
except for the rebates. But
And does that number show, does it reflect that? Is that in there? I had on my notes here 90,000.
yeah, on the capital budget.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, would have taken out there and put into that fund you guys asked about,
Oh,
a separate
Okay.
fund for. Include that.
okay.
And so there's some flexibility, Nikki, and I don't want to get too much into this if you wake it up with it. Like sheriff money goes back into sheriff. If there's a,
It's in the general fund, so build it to go to any general fund.
so if we're, because this money sits in the general fund, then we have the ability to allocate it to a specific fund if we have that overage. So a lot of times there's a transfer to capital improvement program, which you don't have to. We may be able to send some of it, depending on how well we do in a budget year, towards funding this employee benefit insurance pool, if that makes some sense.
Employee benefit wasn't in that for anything, a fund, if that makes a difference.
No, we'd have to do a special transfer and authorize it to move from general to employee benefit.
So just all the general fund, put capital improvement, if I'm not moving their money and put them.
No, you know, the stuff like when we have money that's left over at the end of the year. Yeah, not necessarily all of it, but some of it, instead of, sometimes we would sometimes we'd say, hey, we want to put some of this in capital improvement. I don't know if that's how we do it here. Some other places, at the end of the year, we'll have certain amount of money left over and we'll say, okay, out of the 5 or 10% of our budget that we didn't spend, we would transfer it to capital improvement. Here, what I'm saying is maybe we transfer a portion of that into the employee benefits insurance. So you have that money that sits there and you start to build it up.
We're trying to build that as an interest-bearing reserve.
Yes,
So
so
that
that's
you're hoping the interest earned, does that account, it doesn't account for the premium, would it account for the elevation in the premium?
it's all, that's why I wanted to do sort of an Excel.
All right.
But what happens is we have about 150,000 total a year of Mickey, what was it about in terms of insurance premium increase? On average, it's about $150,000.
It was gonna be like 120,000 this year,
Yeah,
correct?
right.
And then it compounds and next year it's gonna be.
So if you're self-insuring,
Yeah,
you only are paying half a premium.
right.
Cause you're facing a $50,000 to $70,000 increase instead of
Okay.
120. Okay, but if you have in your self-insurance fund, you're still gonna allocate every year basically what you're spending. But eventually, if you have 1.3 or 1.4 million, that's in the, sorry, that's the emergency, but I need to finish this thought.
Sure.
The 1.3 or 1.4 million that's sitting there earning interest,
Uh-huh.
it doesn't earn a lot of interest for the work out. But the interest that it earns is 50 or 60,000. So you've got your reserve that's sitting there. All right. That reserve money, the interest off of that, instead of spending it on anything else, you absorb the $50,000 or $60,000 a year increase every year. I see what I'm saying?
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm with
So it's not a perfect solution because you never totally get in front of it, but you're able to eventually absorb portions
Right.
of what you're.
the increase.
That's right.
It's almost the same lines along Road and Bridge,
That's right.
where we're looking at costs that are gonna continue to go up just to maintain the same roads that we have. That's not putting in new roads. And at some point, if you can do the same thing where you're almost self-insuring, you're looking at different means and methods, which save you money, and you're throwing that money into account, and you're trying to eventually get to where maybe we have a little interest coming in on it.
Right. Okay.
You're self-insuring. That's where you want to get to, because if you self-insure, see, if you have 1.5 million setting your in reserve over and above your budgeted amount, then you have the ability to change your deductible on certain things and decrease sort of what your linebacker insurance is. So the idea is that's when it becomes a,
Which is
Fine.
basically what we did with raising our deductible on the property.
On the property side, to save some premium, but you're saying possibly if we have a fund of cash, and we could put it for the deductibles, but then we start doing things in-house?
no, what it is we're basically insuring a little bit more on ourselves.
Okay.
Okay, and so you're reducing your premium down, you're taking a little bit more risk, you don't have a lot because the reason why the insurance premium is not as much. Right? When you increase your deductible as you go up, the policy it may change a lot, but there's not a lot of, they're not absorbing a lot more risk because you don't have that many claims over and above.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's what you're doing, you're self-insuring more of it, and you still have a linebacker for the bigger road stuff. Okay, enough of that, sorry.
Okay. I would ask you the road north and west of town, the road abatement and closure, whatever you want to call it. Has anything happened with that?
That's with Shane.
With Shane.
Yes.
Did you mention that? If you did, I'm sorry.
No, I have not mentioned that. I'll provide more of a follow-up on that this next week,
Okay.
although I did talk with Shane. We went back and forth and had a meeting,
Okay.
on it. And, I am, the two items that I have produced this week are that, plus a, petition. I met with Shane over the holiday break, and I'm going to be sending him a petition document that allows for him to go on ahead and make. There's a question about whether he needs to sign it. There's a provision in the new state statute. This was the conversation I had, where a majority of the owners can petition for it, 51%, and then we can go off of that. Or we as the county can say we're going to abandon that roadway stretch. And by us doing that, we have to have a notice of hearing. Okay, but the process is only one extra meeting. So I've spoken with him about that. That's my other to-do writing follow-up, but I did have that meeting with Shane over the holidays, and so that's the two things for next week are the process for the planning commission on the annual appointment basis and Shane. Let's
Okay.
wrap that. Those are the two things to wrap up, and then I'll work a little bit more on the modeling so you see what I'm talking about. I'll just kind of do a quick print off, show you what I mean.
Understood.
And then how are we going to address the Sabetha area with the NPR and NRP? There was some verbiage there that
Yeah, I emailed them this about the plan.
Oh, I'll send some email verbiage back on that.
Okay,
Okay, and then the fourth thing that we don't have to do for these, we don't have to immediately do it, but we have the ability on, I believe it's Hiawatha on dispatch. We can look at what we want. And I talked about that with the sheriff. We have a letter that allocates where certain things are at, but that letter's not an agreement that's signed off on by the attorney general. Not an interlocal agreement, so we need to revisit that.
that letter wasn't even an MOU, was
No.
it?
It's just a letter. And
Right.
so we don't really have anything binding in place that says we do this moving forward.
Okay,
So we can work through what we want that to be, and I know the sheriff would like to see that in the next few weeks and figure out. what that-
I would like to see us get reimbursed for
Yes.
something that we're doing.
I think,
Forward.
I think getting reimbursed is an important next step. I think also allocating costs the right way.
okay,
Like, we need to figure out what those, and that's also what's required under state statute with these interlocals, is we need to properly allocate what this cost is. Okay, and then how we're getting properly to it, Commissioner Richard's point, how do we properly reimburse? But we should do.
so. For your benefit, I won't be here next Monday, that's fine, okay, I'll be on Zoom, that works. For our schedule for the NRP, I believe it's the 26th of January, that's the date I'm using, so. What the clerk sent you was some language with Sabetha City's NRP program, where they may or may not have excluded properties on our side of the county line. From their city program. So we need clarification on what that actually, what Sabetha City resolution actually means to us. Because we want our people eligible for the NRP.
So what I will do is I will only, in our NRP, I'll look at that, but I will only exclude areas that are excluded from the Sabetha NRP in our NRP document. So I'll put some language that said, if you are covered under the Sabetha NRP and are eligible, you're excluded, otherwise you're authorized. And then are there other areas that we're trying to exclude out, or are we just gonna leave it?
We had a question with the city of Portland where they had excluded an area years ago.
Yeah.
And we just want to check with them and make sure that they still want that excluded.
Okay. So
If they don't, then I think we would have no problem saying that that's no longer excluded.
I think
Correct.
quite frankly, because of our economic conditions, as a county, where agriculture is at, economic development, we have a strong argument for saying that the entire county. Okay, I think that's what we say. Not that the whole thing is,
But my understanding by statute, you can't just have a blanket in.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to, all right, so, and we won't.
Yeah, there's still areas that we are in agreement here in town that are gonna stay. There's a few areas that were newer developments and we're just gonna leave them out.
okay, good. As long as you're doing that, it's much more legally defendable. The last county that did the entire county that I'm aware of was Butler County.
Okay.
And I think that they let it ride for a while, but it's difficult to, it's much better if we exclude some areas. That's all legally special.
Okay.
With that, I've signed this. Thank you. I will, I'll be available by phone if anything else comes up, and
Okay,
I'll go keep dealing with emergency of the day.
all right, thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Austin.
All right, guys, anything else, just call me. Thank you.
Nikki, there is a line item on the cash and budget summary that you call, well, just looking at it. No, I don't see it. It was an acronym that I was trying to figure out. I think it's the one with. It's an industrial
Oh, development.
development, obviously, but what does that cover? Because I noticed that there was a budget of 50,000. Is that? Is,
That's the.
Okay.
The fourth one.
okay, that was my question, is that does HEPID fall under that? Okay,
And they did, I think that year was at half.
Okay.
And I don't believe Fort never asked. Yeah, it's a minute, but
okay. Well, that was my last question about that.
So in the past, we ran into this last year with a group, and it just happened to be an ordinance that was on our budget that hadn't requested them. Do we have a policy in place for if the budget year is gone? Is that just,
Yeah, we can't hold them to before.
so if somebody doesn't take the money that's allocated, they just miss it for a year?
Doing general. I like that, we're well. There's one other one that could be used, but no one's requested it.
Okay.
It's
And-
not budgeted, it's just.
So, and I'm sorry all these questions are coming your way. I didn't mean to hit you with all this stuff, but one last thing. Last meeting, we had the K-Work renewal of the bill that we had. And I looked trying to find a line item in our budget. And I couldn't find it, but I was under the commissioner's side. It-
I wonder if it's not under the. It's added the duties and then with it.
Okay, that's what it's a big number. I know we budget for it. I just couldn't find where it was.
See it over.
Okay. Let's go here. I mean, I still don't see it, but that's,
This says KC and K Camp.
yeah.
And it
And,
is.
and that makes sense with our contributions plus the dues for membership.
Right.
I guess in the interest of time, when I say could someone find out where that actually comes from and let us know? Yeah. Okay, then we'll scratch that off my list of things I was gonna ask him. And does anyone else have any other business?
No, I have one more that I was just gonna ask, the cash balance with Road and Bridge.
It comes out. That's fine.
Okay, good. All right,
Sorry, no.
No, I was just looking, if you look at your cash balance with Road and Bridge. Is that mostly because of the scaling back on chip and seal?
Some of it that, we didn't move any. The capital improvement this year. In the back. But
Usually we have quite a bit left over.
like.
I put in capital improvement, so.
Yeah, if you look at the beginning cash, it looks like it was 938,000. Beginning of the year. So it's grown a little bit. Okay,
well,
that was my last question.
okay, so we had that K-Work invoice.
Mhm.
That's under, she just said it's under employee benefits of the workman's comp. So I knew it was on our budget someplace, but it's right there. We spent 49,000, was that the bill? And we had 55,000 budgeted for it, so. That's it, anyway. I knew we accounted for it, I just couldn't find where. So I'm of the understanding that we are going to engage the services of Scott Lloyd again with Lloyd Consulting Group. That's in the budget. Is that correct? Is that the preference of everyone? And the reason I'm asking is since we have some of these numbers and some of these questions, part of what he did last year was he took our numbers and he answered some of these questions. Would it be helpful to get him on the meeting schedule a little earlier
Earlier in the year.
in the year?
Earlier than nine,
Just sometime.
what numbers are you?
Well, so when he talked about trends, that was the spreadsheet that Scott showed us was the trends and everything. And if we're gonna pay him for the work, maybe we should just get him on a little sooner and he can.
So normally he came on what, third quarter or,
Yeah, we saw him pretty early.
because to me, if he comes in too early,
Very likely working 1 hours and 4 or 5.
Right.
Right. But I guess I asked him about that and he said that's typical of the first year. I'm hoping that the actual budget process, at least from my side, will be much less intensive because I will understand.
Sure, it should be.
But I just thought maybe we take some of the workload off of our staff here, and maybe it's right up his alley, and but if you wanted to. But if it's inappropriate, we'll just wait till May, that's fine. Okay. Anything else? Okay, the only other thing I had was I'd like to have an executive session for 5 minutes with us. To talk about personnel, non-elected personnel, and basically. It's not performance, it's not, it'd just be for privacy, it would be performance things, I'm sorry, it would be performance. Okay. Does that fit in with everybody's schedule here?
Yes.
Okay, well, I would make a motion that the three commissioners and the county clerk go in executive session for 5 minutes to discuss non-elected personnel and we can be.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, 5 minutes. We'll come back around to. What are they doing? All right, we're out of executive session, back into regular session with no binding action taken. We have our county treasurer has come in. Do you have something for us?
No, I thought my husband.
You're all right. You're all right. Have a seat.
I was actually gonna ask for a executive session,
Okay.
hopefully 5 minutes,
Okay.
yeah,
For,
over non-elected personnel.
okay, and what's the, like, performance, pay duties?
Yeah, the, I guess was my budget pay,
And who do you want in?
you guys are.
Right here? Okay.
Or,
So we need 5 minutes
yeah.
to discuss non-elected personnel, duties or pay with the treasurer, the clerk, and the three commissioners. All right, okay, is there a second?
Okay.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
I
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carried. 5 minutes. We will come back at about 2:30. Out of executive session, we're back into regular, no binding action taken. However, I will make a motion to go back into executive session for 10 minutes to discuss non-elected personnel duty and pay with the three commissioners, county treasurer, and the county clerk. Is there a second?
I second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay. Motion carried. So we'll come back around 2:49.
It was one of them, the bank.
Bank,
So-
bank. All right, we're out of regular or out of executive session back into regular with no binding action taken. Since the treasurer's here, Bill had a question about the banks.
So the banks for the county. We just all have all the banks. And I don't know if you have excess dollars. Wait, you said something about. If you put those and draw interest off, it's to me like you should pick the bank that pays the most interest.
That's what he's talking about. It's just a resolution that'll come up next week with the banks listed.
And just because they're listed on there doesn't mean you have to use them, does it?
Right, what that does is give me the option to, I have the county's permission, I guess, to use any of these banks. Where I see we can get the best interest rate.
So would it be helpful to include the Horton banks?
It's not that. Yes, it is, and I have talked to them before. The issue I run into with that. And like I say, that I run into with that is then. I've got somebody 20-minute drive down, make the deposit, 20-minute drive back. Now I've got mileage involved. I've got
Right.
everything.
So what I was thinking of, if you had like $1 million, you were investing for 3 months or something.
Oh, the CDs, and I'm getting some bids on CDs, and I am going to look around. And yeah, I would have no problem including Horton Banks on that, if you want to include Horton Banks on that for me to get some CD bids. Cause I was in the process, I'm working on that right now.
To me, it looks like that would be only fair to the county bank.
So does that list look incomplete to you as far as CDs are concerned?
If we want to include Horton, Fairview, you
Right.
know, all the banks in Brown County for an opportunity. Sorry, I'm yelling because that's facing the other way. That was the only reason. Sorry, guys. Don't want-
So I think what he's saying is I understand what you're doing is you're working with the banks that,
And on a daily basis, I can see that,
Uh-huh.
but something that's more long-term,
Yeah, for a CD, I would be happy to take bids from any of the banks.
To take a bid from a bank, their name has to be on that resolution. Is that right?
I would have to
Yeah.
check to see. I think it does. I don't think that's just for the accounts. I think if I'm gonna take a bid for a CD, they would have to be on here as well.
Okay.
so on the resolution, could we add that for investment purposes, the banks within Brown County will be given an opportunity to bid?
Interested banks.
Yes, yeah, I'm definitely not
like
trying to exclude anybody.
So we wouldn't have to name them specifically.
Right.
Okay.
Because we obviously want to do work with banks within Brown County.
Yes,
Absolutely.
yes,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, wonderful. Thank you.
Nikki, does that,
I think you're right.
Okay.
And the GMP one, I think is September. That's what you both bring.
Both of them.
Yeah. So we just keep that.
And where to see who's back in Horton.
Yeah, I can look it up. What was it? What was it? All this stuff, everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
okay,
Thank you.
that was easy.
That was easy. Perfect. All right.
Thank you, BJ.
You're welcome.
Okay, wonderful. Now,
that's something.
I had
yes,
better than
we're done.
will be. Judy Brothers. When I told you. I was like, "Get back."
Okay, so I have left 2 messages for the owner. And I have visited their site down here twice. I will go back there again. But I'm not getting a call back, and also they have not been there when I'm going by. So I will continue to go by their location until I can speak with the owner and explain to them that we haven't heard back. And that the process is to resubmit less 10%. And then as soon as the change order items are complete, we'll sign off on the final 10%.
We're together, and not very much keep going into his office and he's very involved. Then too, I don't know what about them about all this for the time.
Okay.
Well, I told you put them on one of the list, like you could. That was my one thing, and then I need 5 minutes. Personnel. The one.
Okay. All right, well, I make a motion, we go into executive session of 3 commissioners and the county clerk for 5 minutes to discuss non-elected personnel and performance. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carried. 5 minutes. We'll come back at 2:59. Okay, we're out of executive session, back into regular session, no binding action taken. Is there anything else to come before the commission today?
Very brown, we live in Manhattan,
You know,
especially good out of. And they keep wanting to find to be at about that baby, the company wanting to be on the road. So this is only Marlon, the biggest. So it's one thing needs to fly, and then they talk about it, see, they're gonna get to that, probably not.
Okay, be a good day for it, sunny and breezy.
And no one brought anything else, that was not also they can be changed before.
Not that I could see, but we did make. Didn't we decide not to print one out? To make it digital? I know we talked about it. Do we need to do anything to enable that? Is that beneficial if we don't print them out? First off,
They was not.
they could be printed at request, right?
yeah, okay, that's kind of how we left it.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, that it? All right, well, I guess I would call for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'd make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second
All right, moving seconded, all in favor, say aye.
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 All right, meeting adjourned, 2 hours. Nice one.